There's a bunch of recruits coming to USC this weekend. Oh, and there's more coaching news.
You are Locked On USC, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I am your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC. It's part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day. Whether you're watching this show on YouTube, you can pick your platform, download this podcast. Every time you listen, every time you watch, it's always going to be free, and I am always going to appreciate your support. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers, if you can bet just $5, and if you win, you're going to score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Saturday is going to be a really big day on the USC campus. Huge. There's a lot of news to talk about right now. A lot of recruiting news, coaching staff news. I'm just going to bust through this, so try and get you all caught up. I sent out a little hint this afternoon. Well, you're watching this on Wednesday, first thing. On Tuesday, I put out a little tweet that there's some movement going on with the USC coaching staff. We'll get to that here in just a second. But we're going to be talking about recruiting as well. So as I mentioned, USC is going to be hosting a grip. I mean, a big group of young talent, and a lot of them, in fact, most of them are from Southern California, which is always good news. That's a benefit. So USC, Antonlynn, Lincoln Riley, they've also added another position coach on that side of the ball on defense. And there's actually some more news I'm going to talk about as it relates to the staff itself. I'm going to get to the recruiting news in the next segment, talking about the players and yada, yada, yada. But news that kind of came out of the blue, out of nowhere, left field. USC has a new cornerbacks coach. Yeah. We know Taylor Mays is going to be the safeties coach at the University of Washington. Well, now it looks like Doug Belk and will be working with the safeties. You've got Bookie Radley-Hiles, who will be able to slide into Taylor Mays' slot, kind of, be the go-between between safeties and cornerbacks. Pardon me. But USC went and hired a full-time cornerback coach. His name is Trovon Reed, and he's been coaching at the University of Central Florida for this past season. Trojans Reed most recently this was the statement released by USC after the announcement. Reed, most recently serving as the cornerbacks coach at UCF, has been named USC's cornerbacks coach. Head coach Lincoln Riley announced today, January 28th. Quote, Trojans Reed is another fantastic addition to our staff, a rising star in our business. Wright is a talented coach with NFL playing experience. He's also an exceptional recruiter who will surely contribute to our climb as a program. We're excited to welcome him to USC. Part of his NFL experience was being playing for Pete Carroll, Seattle Seahawks. During his one season at Central Florida, Reed developed a room of impressive cornerbacks. He's got redshirt senior Mac McWilliams. He's at the Senior Bowl right now. Before I forget, let me slip this in. Jalen Smith, USC's cornerback, who's also at the Reese's Senior Bowl. He recorded the fastest time among all the players that are out there. Just put that out there. J-Rock's draft grade is going up every single day. I'm so happy for that young man. Anyways, let's get back to USC's new cornerback coach. So one of the guys he was coaching at Central Florida, Mac McWilliams, he's at the Senior Bowl as well. He finished the 2024 season with 32 tackles, 6.5 of those were for a loss. He also got in there on a sack, and he had a couple of pass breakups, one interception, and a forced fumble. According to Pro Football Focus, McWilliams was the fourth highest graded cornerback in the Big 12 Conference. There's another senior that's at the Senior Bowl. His name is Brandon Adams. He had 14 tackles. He also led the team with 2 interceptions, and he had a couple pass breakups as well. Why am I bringing those two players up? For the simple fact that Coach Reed has a really cool feather in his resume. When he puts on that hat and says resume, he's the only cornerback coach who can say he's got two players at the Senior Bowl this year. Which is a lot. Prior to his season coaching the Golden Knights, that is their name, right? Reed spent 3 seasons at Auburn from 2021 through 2023. He was the director of football and recruiting relations. I want you to remember that name, that title, because I'm telling you a story today. And while he was at Auburn, he also became a fixture in recruiting and helped the Tigers land several top recruits. In 2024, Reed actually helped Auburn sign the number 8 recruiting class, according to On3 and Rivals. On that note, I mentioned his title of Director of Football and Recruiting Relations. Annie Hanson, she's stepping down. I'll get to more of that coming up. Again, I told you, a lot of stuff going on today. Because Reed was at Auburn, I've got a really good contact with that program. So I reached out and I spoke with that person. I said, hey, tell me about Reed. What should I tell the Locked On USC listeners, as well as all the subscribers over there on WeAreSC.com? And this is what he said. His exact words, quote, I don't know anything about USC staff, but I promise you, he's the best recruiter y'all have. Elite, end quote. All right. He followed up a little while later because he's at the Senior Bowl right now, focusing on SEC players, understandably. But he said, A-plus recruiter and an extremely hard worker. Auburn fans love him and are super excited for him. Two-way 5-star recruit coming out of high school. And he was one of the top recruits in his class, so he'll be able to relate to the players. He's still young. He is also a 2-time SEC championship winner at Auburn. He played with Cam Newton, so he was on that national championship team in 2010, so he knows about winning. And as I mentioned, he also played under Pete Carroll for the Seattle Seahawks. So he's going to get USC. After the news went public, there was a recruit out there. His name's Lamar Brown. He tweeted to Coach Reed, quote, you just made everything easier for me, end quote. Yeah, that's kind of an ominous, a little bit vague message. I'm sure the folks at LSU are going, uh-oh. Lamar Brown, 6'4", 285 pounds. He plays both sides of the ball on the line. But he said that he envisions himself playing as an offensive lineman at the next level. He says that because he likes to destroy people, and he likes to get to the next level and destroy somebody else. I think this guy watched Tony Baselli's signing day from when he was drafted in the NFL by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Very similar sentiments. Tony was all about destroying guys. Anyways, I doubt that the number 1 ranked interior offensive lineman was going to go to UCF. In fact, most have the Louisiana native picking LSU. However, he also holds a USC offer. So let's keep an eye on this one because he's got a great relationship with Coach Reed, who's also from the area. So we'll see how that plays out. The fact that the Reed hire, he's a good coach. He relates well. The recruiting part, that's the added bonus. That's the big benefit. And there's a theme going on here. You think USC knows that Doug Belk is a hot commodity? Probably going to be a defensive coordinator sooner rather than later, whether it's at USC or somewhere else. They're planning for the future. In the event that Doug got scooped up all of a sudden, you got somebody who you can say, all right, take over. Go be the secondary coach. And again, since there's no limitations on the coaching staff, you can have as many coaches as you want now. As far as I'm concerned, keep stacking coaches who can recruit, right? What about Coach Nua? Not trying to spread any rumors. I have zero inside knowledge. However, let me ask this question. Do you think he might be looking for his own defensive line job, his own gig? I don't think he's jealous or anything like that. That's not what I'm trying to insinuate. But like you, we've all been noticing the coaching staff. They're on the road. They're recruiting, doing in-homes, going to schools, showing their face. And Coach Nua is on the road. Don't get me wrong. He's out there recruiting. But I'm starting to wonder. It was kind of obvious who was missing from that group picture, the USC coaching staff, when they went out to Georgia to go visit Xavier Griffin. Lincoln Riley was there. Coach Lynn was in the picture. Coach Belt, Coach Henney, Rob Ryan. They were all in the group pick. Who did I not mention? Again, I have no inside knowledge. But I think the tea leaves, they're steeping right now. As I mentioned, Reed is considered an elite recruiter. I mentioned Annie Hanson is stepping down. But, I should say, however, because this is actually a good thing. Here comes Chad Bowden, USC's new general manager. Let me remind everybody, Annie Hanson's strength was, being able to relate her organizational skills. She actually won the same award that Chad Bowden just won when she was working at Oklahoma. So Chad is known for his relationship building, as Annie Hanson was, recruiting. He's got some really good recruiting chops. Highly recommended for his organizational skills. Again, all those things were considered strengths for Annie. You're following along? Are you hearing what I'm thinking? So you got this Saturday, USC's newest recruiting coordinator / general manager. I think he'll be able to get his feet wet when some of the best prospects show up on USC's campus. They're also going to be entertained. They're going to be heading over to the USC versus Michigan State basketball game that will be played at Galen Center that afternoon. I'm going to talk about some of those recruits that are going to be on campus this Saturday. That's coming up next. So, again, new cornerback coach who is highly regarded, an elite recruiter. You lost Annie Hanson. You got Chad Bowden coming in. I think USC is looking towards the future, getting all their ducks in a row, preparing for anything that could possibly happen. And you have to be able to do that, especially when you've got all these recruits that are showing up on Saturday. So let's do this. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, Philadelphia, Kansas City. Who are you rooting for? Do you care? I'm going for Kansas City just because Juju Smith-Schuster's on the team. That's my rooting interest. But there is no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds, and you can feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app, super easy to use, really super easy to navigate. Even a blind person could probably do it. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, put your finger in the icing on the cake. Wipe it off, put it in your mouth. That's how good it tastes. Download the app, head to FanDuel.com, get started. Just bet $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, an official partner of Super Bowl 59. I mentioned in the first segment, Annie Hanson, she's stepping down. She wasn't fired. She's not being replaced. She's been promoted. She's going to be a mom to her and Coach Zach Hanson's new baby boy, Rock. She is doing what I think everybody thinks she should be doing. This is what she said she released her own statement. After much prayer and support from my USC family, I've made the difficult decision to step back from my role as executive director of recruiting to honor my responsibilities as a mom to our new baby, Rock, and wife of my amazing husband, Zach. And there was more to her statement. You can go check it out for your own. Just do a little research on the internet. It's all out there for you. Or go to wearc.com. We have it there for you as well. So Chad Bowden's arrival and the timing starting to make a little more sense now. I was kind of alluding to that in that first segment. Someone asked, last week when the news broke, how would Chad Bowden and Annie work together? How would their work overlap? Could they work together? Well, at this point, Annie, she doesn't have time to do this type of job. You got a newborn. That's a full-time effort plus overtime. So if anything, she'll be an advisor. She'll be there to answer some questions. But again, she's taking on a more important role in her life right now. I'm going to miss seeing her. I'm going to miss talking to her about recruiting. But again, thank you, Annie, for everything. And it looks like USC has got some people to, I hate to use the word replace her, but that's in essence, that's what's going on. You gotta replace Annie's expertise. I reached out to a source. I wanted to get a list of names who are going to be on campus Saturday. Here's what I received, and this list is going to continue to grow. Here, I'm going to give you a bunch of names now. I guarantee you, when you're done watching this episode of Locked on USC and you head on over to wearesc.com, you're going to see the list has already grown. So let's get started. Xavier Griffin, the top linebacker edge player from the state of Georgia. R.J. Sermons, the top cornerback in California, maybe in the country. Deshaun Rideau, 4-star running back from California. Madden Reardon, California defensive back. Vance Spafford, California wide receiver who's committed to Georgia. You've got Trent Mosley, California wide receiver who will play for Carson Palmer at Rancho Santa Margarita this year. You also have Sam Utu. He's an interior offensive lineman at OLU, Orange Lutheran, state of California. What about Simote Katoanga? He's a D-line edge player. Jay Serra, San Juan Capistrano. That's in California. You've got Mark Bowman, the top tight end, who's reclassifying to 2026. We talked about him on yesterday's episode of Locked on USC. Plays at Mater Dei. You have John Ione, California interior offensive lineman. He plays at Tustin. Richard Wesley, he's a class of 2027 defensive lineman, Sierra Canyon. How about Talanoa, is it Eli? All I know is this. He's a big-time linebacker commit, plays at OLU. This is a guy that Coach Dog is after. USC had to kind of get back into it with him. Whatever ground USC's making up, Coach Dog, he's the guy. Again, another California kid. You got Brandon Lockhart. He's already committed to USC. He plays at Loyola High School in LA. Josh Holland, the athlete from St. John Bosco. You've got Davon Benjamin, cornerback, Oaks Christian, teammate of Rideau. Cannon Smith, offensive tackle. He's from Colorado. You've got Vlad Diakonov. He's the offensive tackle. He plays at Folsom. He's Rider Lions protector. And you know me. Anybody who has the name Vlad is a take. He'll be on campus. You got Tucker Smith. He's an unranked offensive tackle, but he's from Phoenix, Arizona. You've got Marcus Fakatu, class of 2028. He's an edge player, but he's from the state of California. And then you got Havon Finney, class of 2027. He's a cornerback, also Sierra Canyon. So did you notice a trend or a theme? How many times did I say the word California? I will be disappointed that when the players arrive on campus Saturday morning, whenever they show up, whoever USC's DJ for the day is, he better be playing Tupac's California Love. That list is California heavy, and it's going to get bigger there's going to be more players from California, but it just shows you that the staff is starting to really focus in, emphasize on their backyard. So that's big. That's huge. In other recruiting news, as I mentioned, the coaching staff is on the road. They've got a few days left before, I won't call it really the dead period, but players, if they want to have face-to-face, they can come to USC's campus. They can do unofficial visits, that type of stuff. But Coach Riley, he took a visit. He did an in-home with Elbert Hill, or maybe he went to his high school. Elbert Hill is considered the top cornerback in Ohio. Usually those players stay home and play for the Buckeyes. Don't count USC out here. Again, I think the hiring of Trovon Reed, that can't be understated. USC keeps stacking talented elite recruiters. And Chad Bowden is considered one of those guys as well, even though he's not technically a coach. Since we're talking about recruiting, and this is slightly on a different note, and we're talking about California recruiting. Did you hear about St. John Bosco and the allegations against head coach Jason Negro? Apparently there's like a slush fund. He's been keeping cash in a safe, doing a lot of paying for recruits to come to school, paying their scholarships with cash. No accounting whatsoever. Anyways, there's a big investigation going on. I really hope, because I have a feeling, I've been talking to some people, this could really be big. This might not be good. We know that there seems to be a pipeline from Bosco to a certain college up in the Pacific Northwest, not naming names, that has an unlimited collective with funds to just throw at kids, high school recruits, transfers. Just saying. Let's keep an eye on the money. Always follow the money. See where it's coming from. Like I said, we'll see where that goes. There was a story in the LA Times that came out Tuesday afternoon. So we'll see how this thing plays out. But on the surface, it does not look good. Doesn't look good at all. So I like Coach Negro, though. Friend of the show. We'll see what happens. I'll keep you updated. All right, one more segment to go. What's missing from this USC roster? What do you think? What is the biggest need still on both sides of the ball? Offense and defense. Let's start on offense, because I think there's more holes on offense than on defense, I think. Kind of ironic, isn't it? On offense, for me, it's definitely getting that left guard and that right tackle spots figured out. USC might have all they need on their roster for all we know. But that's what spring camp's going to be about. And, Chad Bowden, he can do some evaluations and decide, he can analyze the situation and decide, hey, do we need to go into the transfer window, into the spring transfer portal window? Tobias Raymond is going to be the guy to lock down that right tackle spot. Everybody assumes it's his job to lose. However, what if DJ Wingfield, the transfer from Purdue, what if he's better at right tackle than playing in the interior offensive line? You look at his PFF scores, he grades out better playing a tackle than playing guard. So we'll see what happens there. As I mentioned, Chad Bowden, he'll be able to evaluate, analyze, talk to Coach Riley and Coach Hanson and say, hey, how do you feel? Do we need to make some moves here? And then that's where they say, all right, Chad, go do what you got to do. Go find us the guys. If that's the role he's going to be playing. Myself and Chris Arledge, Eric McKinney, Greg Katz had a really nice spirited conversation about this whole thing on Inside the Trojan Huddle, this week's episode. So make sure you go check that out. It looks like we're yelling at each other. We got some really strong opinions. We all like each other. Some of us just tend to look at things a little bit more cynically, a little bit more pragmatically. That's all. Go enjoy the show when you're done watching this episode. So I think on the offensive line, definitely you have the pieces, but is there something missing? I think the quarterback room, I think that quota, it's been filled. You don't need another quarterback. You got Jaden Mayava, you got Husan Longstreet, you got Sam Heward, you got Gage Roy. You're good. Same for the running back room. I was surprised they're bringing in 2 transfers. I got to be honest with you. I'm surprised. I thought one for sure. When they brought in the second, I was like, oh, okay, interesting. Start running the ball. Maybe it's a sign. As far as the wide receiver room, I've talked about this. USC went with the addition by subtraction. You're rolling with Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon et al. You don't need 4 number 1 types of receivers. So Zachariah Branch, he is now a Georgia Bulldog. Deuce Robinson, he is now following in his father's footsteps at Florida State. As far as the tight end room, yeah, it's busting at the seams. No more tight ends. So on offense, I don't know, maybe it's even. Maybe you need more on defense. I don't know. It doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of missing pieces. What you're missing are players that you can say for sure, yeah, they've got that spot locked down. So competition's open. We're looking at depth. We're looking at who's going to take over at starter. And then on the defense side of the ball, the first position that's going to pop into everybody's head, the first word out of my mouth is going to be linebacker. Linebacker. Oh, let me emphasize that, linebacker. I think USC's fine up front now. You got the depth across the board. You brought in 700 pounds of interior linemen, Keyshawn Silver, Jaw Jarrett. By the way, Jaw Jarrett, Corey Sims, they were at the basketball game Monday night against UCLA. They were enjoying themselves. Excuse me. So besides linebacker, is there another spot? Is there something missing on that side of the ball? Maybe cornerback, experience piece. I think we're okay at safety now. Again, there's not a lot of missing pieces. It's just a matter of, are the pieces that are there, are they going to be good enough to improve on what happened in 2024? That's what we're looking for. Better on offense. Defense just continue to get better, build on what they did. I'm going to go back to what Coach Riley said when he took over at USC. Don't put any limitations on this squad. They've been recruiting better. Hopefully they've got the pieces. The coaching staff seems to be second to no one. I love that side, the defensive side of the ball. Obviously now everyone's looking at the offensive side. Are we set there? So we've talked about the coaching move. We've talked about recruiting. How's that for a show? It's always football. Football is 24/7, 365 days a year. And I'm going to be back again tomorrow talking more about USC football. Any recruiting news that comes down, any coaching news that comes down, anything that has to do with USC, make Locked On USC your first listen every day, and I will keep you up to date. And then when you're done watching this episode, you've got Locked On College Football. I was part of the the Big Ten squad show again this week. Had some fun there, so make sure you check that out when it's up, when it gets put up. But again, Locked On USC is your first listen every day, and then get on over there to wersc.com. So until the next episode, everyone, you know what to do.